All right.
All right.
So,
Oh, sorry.
oh, no, go ahead.
Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for accommodating our change this week. I'm sorry for the last minute change. It's just been a kind of crazy week, as you probably all know. And also, I want to acknowledge any people who are feeling anxious and nervous because of the pandemic, because of all that's going on in the news. Just know, if you live long enough, it's okay. Because things like this happen. Pandemics, elections, all of these things pass and we get past it. And you'll find that when you're older and wiser, you'll be like, oh, wow, that happened. Very nice. So that being said, people are probably waiting on bated breath to figure out how the election is going to end. And it will end at some point, probably in 2021, but it will end. So that being said, today we have a guest speaker from the Yale School of Environment. It used to be the Yale School of Forestry and Environmental Studies. They had a recent name change this summer. And I wanted to have them come in to talk to you about graduate opportunities. I know many of you are trying to figure out what is your next steps. Some people have been looking at possibly going to work right after graduating from school. Some people are looking at higher education opportunities. I would tell you, as young folks with the whole world ahead of you, no decision that you choose will be the wrong decision, but you want to make sure that you have the right information when you move forward. I personally went straight to graduate school right after undergrad. And for me, that was a great decision. I had classmates that decided to work for a few years so they could figure out how they focus their graduate studies. And so, depending on what your personal decisions are, that way influence what you decide to do. For many people now, given that we're in a pandemic and hiring is kind of weird, graduate school may be a great option only because it gives you that buffer of continuing your education while businesses and governments and everybody else is sorting out what do we do in this pandemic space. So Lori Lombardo is here today. She's from the admissions office. She's one of the fabulous recruiters that are bringing life and energy to our school and really trying to have the school body, staff, and faculty reflect the new reality of what everyone brings to the table. And so, I mean, Susan may be able to talk to you a little bit later on about what her class composition was when she was in school based on the amount of women in her class and things like that versus how our composition is now. And just for information's sake, the first woman that graduated, who's actually one of my board members, she graduated from the Yale School of Environment in 72, I think that was, she graduated. So it hasn't been that long that the Yale School of Forestry and Environmental Studies, now the Yale School of Environment, admitted women into their class. So it is something to think about that Lori and her team, they're out there trying to make sure that the school reflects the true nature of environmental professionals globally. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Lori.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. I shared my email in the chat earlier. I'll share it again when we go back to the Q&A in case anyone else continues to join. And I'm also going to share, there's a form that you can fill out just to let me know that I met you today, even if it's just virtually. No pressure on filling it out. It will add you to our event newsletter. So that goes once or twice a month, generally at most. So I know a lot of colleges send a lot of things. If you're not comfortable filling out the form, you don't have to. But I like to explain what it is so that you can make an informed decision. But we hope that you'll connect with us that way. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I have a brief PowerPoint. Typically, it takes me, depends on how much I talk, to be honest, but usually about half an hour, perhaps a little bit less, just so we can spend the majority of our time with questions. I find that's a little bit more of an engaging way to participate in a virtual environment. So I'll give you an overview of our programs and, focus a little bit in on the forestry opportunities with us, but I'll share all of our degree programs today. So these are our master's programs, the ones that will probably be most of interest to you all are the 2-year master's degrees. If you happen to be a Yale College or a Yale NUS student, then, you might be eligible for the 5-year program, but I'm going to make the assumption that most of you are for the 2-year degrees. So we have 2 professionally focused programs, the Master of Environmental Management, MEM, and the Master of Forestry, MF, which is accredited by the Society of American Foresters. And at YSE, we use acronyms quite a bit, so I'll do my best to use the full names, but if I slip up and use an acronym that, you don't remember or want me to go over again, please just let me know in the chat. And then we have 2 research degrees, the Master of Environmental Science, MESC, and the Master of Forest Science, MFS. So I'll go through these all a little bit more in depth, but the main difference is the 2 research degrees. Some of the credits towards the degree will be earned through research. So it's not entirely coursework based. Whew. A lot of talking today. I'm like losing my words, so forgive me there. But we also have some joint degree options that are available for students. This is definitely something unique to our program. And a lot of our joint degrees are available with, our MESC, the research degrees, the forestry master's program, or the Master of Environmental Management. So if you have interests that are interdisciplinary and you're not really sure, if you want to, solely earn an environmental degree or a forestry degree, if you have interests in law or, like public health and the way that they interact with environmental issues. Oops, I'm sorry. I clicked too quickly. Or if you have, overlapping interests, these may be good opportunities for you. So that said, our joint programs it's a fairly easy process if you are interested in them. So basically what happens is you will apply to the Yale School of the Environment and whichever joint program you're interested in separately. We all have our own application processes. And then on the application, it'll just ask if you're applying or interested in a joint program. You'll just click yes and then move forward. Hopefully you'll be admitted to both schools. And it's at that point when you decide to enroll that you'll let us know that you're pursuing a joint degree program with us and whichever other school it is that you've been admitted to and are enrolling in. So I'll talk briefly about our Master of Environmental Management first. It is our largest degree program, and part of the reason for that is because it is very flexible and it has a lot of different areas of specialization, which I'll show those on the next slide. It is one of our professionally focused programs, so it is 48 credits of coursework to be awarded the degree. As with all of our programs, you're able to take classes across Yale. So again, if you do have interdisciplinary interests or, want to take classes at another school at Yale, just, because it sounds interesting, that's certainly an opportunity for you as well. With the Master of Environmental Management, there are opportunities for research and hands-on learning. And I'll talk about those in a few ways later on. But the important thing to note with the Master of Environmental Management is it is a broad but focused program. So you will become an expert in one particular area while still having the opportunity to take classes in the forestry program or at other schools at Yale as well. So these are the specializations in the Master of Environmental Management. There are 9, and the opportunity for a self-design specialization. So most students interested in the MEM program are able to find a home with one of these specializations, because as you can see from this list, some have more of a social science focus, while others have more of a natural science focus. For example, green chemistry and industrial ecology has a little bit more, natural science components to it than the people equity and the environment specialization, which does have more of a social science lens. Okay, so the Master of Forestry, our school's original program, we were founded back in 1901, and it's, of course, our founding program, and we were the original forestry school in the United States. So we were the first ones. So we certainly have a a long history with forestry, especially in the New England area. As I mentioned earlier, we are accredited by the Society of American Foresters, which is certainly an important thing to note if you are looking to pursue careers within the field of forestry. And the unique thing about our program is that it really allows our students to go on to a wide range of careers. Our faculty are experts in temperate forest, of course, but also tropical forestry is not uncommon area of expertise for our faculty. Some folks are interested in more conservation work, while others are looking more to work in development areas. Some of our students are interested in what you may think of more traditionally as rural issues, while interest in urban forestry issues is certainly growing as well. And as I highlighted, our faculty and our students are interested in a wide variety of types of forests. So while you can see, there's a map on this page that highlights the forests that we own, the Yale School forests, they're throughout Connecticut and New England more broadly. So New Hampshire and Vermont, of course, and Connecticut are all temperate forests. But we have the opportunity available to our students to engage in other types of work as well. And I'll talk about that in one or two slides, that hands-on opportunities available to students. We do have a forest apprenticeship program. We call it on campus Forest Crew. It's a really great opportunity to gain that hands-on learning experience, and I'll talk about that more as well. But overall, this program does have a focus, of course, on land management, but going with the theme, probably the most used word on our website and in our vocabulary is there's an interdisciplinary approach to forestry here. And Dr. Mark Ashton, who's the Senior Associate Dean of the Forest School here at Yale, I always laugh when he says it because it sounds like an insult, but I think it's the perfect way to describe our forestry program. He says that we produce odd foresters. So our forestry students tend to like to work with people and engage with communities and, do more than just be out, in the woods doing more technical forestry work. So we definitely have an approach that is interdisciplinary in teaching forestry issues, and there is certainly an emphasis on ethics as well. And I'll talk about the curriculum a little bit more thoroughly here to kind of highlight what he means when he's talking about our odd foresters, which is definitely just a non-traditional approach to forestry. So we have, of course, in you're starting off at YSE, your first, classes within the forestry program will focus on building foundational knowledge. So you'll learn in topics such as hydrology, you'll do some ecology work, political science, GIS, statistics, making sure you have all of these, foundational knowledge bases covered. Then in stage 2, as you start to move forward in your forestry degree with us, you'll start to integrate the foundational knowledge that you've learned within another context, such as social, economic, or political. And you'll start covering topics like silviculture, applied ecology, economics, and law and policy. So this is when it starts to become a little bit more interdisciplinary. And then in stage 3, so when you're starting to near the end of your time with us, the end of your 2 years, you'll really start to prepare to solve real world management and policy problems that relate to issues involving forests and people. So there is definitely a lot of interest on our campus in topics like agroforestry and community development. And this is when that really starts to be the focus of your education with the Yale School of the Environment at the Forest School. So it's definitely, you'll continue to build on the knowledge that you're learning, from the start of your experience with YSE all the way through your capstone project. And there's lots of opportunities within the forestry program to specialize, so to say, within different areas, depending on what your interests are. But unlike the Master of Environmental Management, there's no specific specialization that you're required to choose in order to continue forward with the degree program. So another big component of our Master of Forestry program is our forest apprenticeship. So known lovingly on campus as the Forest Crew, this is a really great opportunity for our forestry students to really learn field forestry in a hands-on environment. It's typically about 12 weeks. Most students will complete it between their first and second year during the summer. At Yale Myers Forest, we do have a research camp. So, there's cabins, there's beautiful labs for you to do research and work. And during the Forest Crew, our students are mentored by professional foresters, our own faculty, and doctoral students as well. So it's very hands-on. You'll learn all aspects of field forestry, and you can read this list here, but you can imagine things like doing boundary location and surveys, GIS planning, wildlife habitat, and protected area assessments. So there's lots of opportunities to really learn forestry at its core and in person, which is really awesome. So excitingly, even though, the pandemic has certainly wreaked havoc on a lot of, things that we had come to expect, like in-person classes and internships that are in person and the like, we were able to squeeze in a forest crew this summer. When Yale opened to field work, I think we may have been the only school that had any students able to participate in this in-person and hands-on learning experience during the summer. So they formed a pod. So the students that were able to complete the forest apprenticeship this summer, it was a little bit shortened just due to the time constraints of the reopenings phases of Yale, but they, quarantined together in the forest so that they could take these classes and do this all together, which is, really cool to know that our students were able to do that. So the last thing that I'll mention on our forest crews is that we do offer them on a shorter time scale as well. So, typically they're about 1 to 2 weeks. They can be up to 3 weeks, but these shorter crews are offered throughout the United States. So we've had some students participate in Western crews. So they're going, to the American West. Students that are interested in forests of the Southern United States have that opportunity as well. And we do have a partnership with a university in Germany as well. So we actually alternate every other year with them. So, 1 year we'll go there with our students. And then the next year, the German students will come to the US and participate in one of our crews. So lots of really great opportunities to connect with different types of forests as well. Okay, so our last degrees that I'll speak to are the Master of Environmental Science and the Master of Forest Science. These degrees are identical in structure. The main difference between the two is depending on what your research topic is, that will help determine which of these two degrees you'll earn. So if your research topic is focused on more global and general environmental challenges, you'd be earning the Master of Environmental Science. But if your research topic had a main area of focus being on forest and people-related topics, you would earn the Master of Forest Science. So the way these programs work is you are assigned a faculty advisor. So during the application process, when it's that time to start preparing your application, we do encourage you to reach out to potential advisors. So, exploring our website, learning more about our faculty, starting to think about what your research question will be, and reaching out to them to learn more about what they like and like to have in their advisees, just to kind of see if you're a good fit. You may, on paper, a faculty member may seem like the perfect fit to be your advisor, but, after having a deeper conversation with them, you realize either because of personality or, area of expertise, they may not actually be the best fit to be your advisor. So basically, you'll be working with your academic advisor from the start. The structure of the program is pretty simple because it is very, very flexible. Your first semester, all students are required to take a research methods course. but after that, you have a very flexible course trajectory. So you'll work with your advisor to select what courses will best support your research work and broaden your knowledge in the areas that you hope to do so. And the reason that it is so flexible is because you're answering your own original research question. So, there's a huge diversity in topics. They can be more focused in the natural sciences, they can be more focused in the social sciences. But in order to successfully, produce a master's thesis, we know that you need to be flexible in the types of courses that you're taking, and you need the space also to conduct your research. So on average, students will spend between 12 and 24 of their credits working on their independent research. And typically students will, prepare their methods and decide on their course trajectory in their first year, and then start their data collection over the summer between their first and second years before returning to campus for year 2, where they'll start their data analysis and start working on their thesis, which of course will result in a publication-worthy document. So because of the structure of this program, it is good preparation for a PhD, whether it be the Master of Environmental Science or the Master of Forest Science. But I also like to note that we do have students that are in the more professionally focused programs, the Master of Forestry and the Master of Environmental Management, that do go on to PhDs as well. So just because the research degrees we say are good prep for a PhD doesn't mean that the others aren't as well. But this is a really good opportunity if you are interested in continuing research that you've done, either in your undergraduate experience, in an internship, or in any professional work experience. It's a really great opportunity to continue research or build upon research you've done in the past as well. So if you are interested in continuing research or earning a science master's degree, these are 2 really great options for you. Okay, so I always like to mention our centers and programs. These are a really important part of life at YSE, and they offer a lot of opportunities for students who are in our professional focused degrees, the Master of Forestry and the Master of Environmental Management, to engage in hands-on learning and research experiences outside of the classroom. So you can see there's quite a few here listed. Some of the more forestry-related centers and programs would include, of course, the Forest Dialogues, the School Forests, Tropical Resources Institute, ELTI, the Environmental Leadership and Training Initiative, does a lot of work with forestry as well. The Urban Resources Initiative, if you are interested in more urban forestry issues, that could be a really interesting one as well. And the Yale Forest Forum is a really awesome one too. It's one of my favorites because it's one of the ways that as a staff member, I'm very easily able to engage with one of these centers and programs, but they host every semester lecture series every Thursday from 12 to 1. I encourage you to check out our website. You can sign up. There's 2 more left this semester if you are interested in learning more. This semester's topic is on agroforestry. So they're really great ways to continue to engage with the academic topics of forestry outside of the classroom, but also, like I mentioned, research and just, of course, various other ways to engage in hands-on learning. Okay, so switching gears slightly, I'll speak briefly to our various support services and our community at YSE because, well, in the case of the Career Development Office, you're definitely wondering, is a master's program going to prepare me for, the type of career that I want? So the Career Development Office is certainly an important thing to take a look into as you consider graduate programs. I'm really proud to say that our Career Development Office is absolutely incredible. They have a very strong focus on individual advising because they understand that the fields of environmental management and forestry are quite broad and that students have a wide variety of different goals and different outcomes that they hope to have from earning their degree with the Yale School of the Environment. So in addition to, the traditional, workshops and info sessions and career panels and whatnot that you can expect from a career development office, know that you will have the full support of individual advising by our CDO, our Career Development Office team, there to ensure that you're building your resume in an appropriate way to, move on to the career that you're excited for and that you set out to accomplish when you joined us. So another really, really interesting thing that you can check out on our website is we have 7 years of employment data available. So if you're, curious to learn more about the different types of career paths that are, offered or available to you as a graduate of the Yale School of the Environment, definitely encourage you to check out the website. If you go to environment.yale.edu/careers, you can actually see there's a tab towards the bottom that says employment and salary data. And you can actually see the job title and the organization and the location of all of our graduates that reported 6 months after graduation. So we have data, starting in 2019 and going back 6 years after that. We hope to have the 2020 data soon, but they're still, going through that. And I think they've been slowed slightly just because of the impacts of the pandemic on our campus and our alumni who graduated in May. So lots of really great resources through the Career Development Office as well. Here you can see just a snapshot of the many places that our students go off to work, either through internships or as their first destinations after graduating. And you can see this pie chart is from the class of 2019 that graduated. The majority of our students are going into private business consulting type work, or they're going to work in NGOs or nonprofit organizations. And then about 16% in the 2019 group went on to government or public sector work. And this, you can see all of these pie charts on that 7 years of employment data that I mentioned. And it's super interesting to see how this pie chart has changed. In some years, the majority of our students are going off to government or public sector work, and less are going into the private or NGO realm. So really interesting just to see how it changes from year to year. I think it just highlights that the degrees at the Yale School of the Environment are flexible. They can take you in a lot of different directions. And depending on the state of the world, you can just see students going to continue their environmental or forestry careers in different directions. So really just interesting to take a look at for sure. So we're certainly happy to spotlight some of our alumni as well. I know we have 2 on the line now, so you have a direct relation to some of our incredible graduates. Certainly you get to know them a little bit better than just their picture and their title. But our students do go off to do a wide variety of things and do find great success in their careers, after graduating from YSE. And those careers vary from, becoming professors with us again at YSE, like Dr. Dorcetta Taylor has done. She recently joined us back at YSE this summer. Others go on to, be research fellows. Others start their own organizations. So I think you can see, one of our most recent graduates founded his own company as well. And, they're doing some pretty great things relating to forests. They're trying to reforest the U.S. In a way that supports forest-related businesses. So if you check them out, on LinkedIn, or they do have a website, but they sell what are they called? Cutting boards made from New Haven trees and things like that. So really, really interesting. I encourage you to certainly check out our alumni, look up Cambium Carbon to see just how our students are engaging in forestry and environmental issues at their own scale and starting their own organizations and being entrepreneurs, as well as academics and leaders of some pretty incredible organizations like the Society of American Foresters and the World Wildlife Fund. Okay, briefly, I'll talk about our community and student life. I briefly mentioned that all students will have the opportunity to spend some time in the Yale forests. So even if you weren't a Master of Forestry or Forest Science student, during our orientation modules, all students have the opportunity to spend some time in Yale Myers Forest. We teach all of our students technical skills during our orientation modules, as well as we focus on community and inclusion and diversity issues as well. Those tend to happen more in New Haven when we're closer to campus, but you still have the great opportunities to connect with your classmates and really start to learn and start to build a foundation on, the importance of issues that are related to your degree, no matter what your specific area of focus is. We also have over 30 different student interest groups. We call them SIGs for short. So these are just really great ways to engage with classmates that have similar interests to you that may be academic or more social focused. We also have the Forestry Club. So definitely an homage now to our former name, the Yale School of Forestry and Environmental Studies. So everyone was a forester in some sense, just because of the name of the school. So Forestry Club tends to be more of our social organization. They plan various gatherings and events and opportunities for students to connect with each other throughout the semester. I guess the most consistent thing that they plan is the TGIFs, Thank Goodness I'm a Forester. Obviously a play on Thank Goodness It's Friday, but they would, when we're on campus, get together and open it up to the whole community and just wind down in our main academic building. Everyone just got to hang out after a long week. Now, since that's turned virtual, they've gotten really creative. We had a YSE cribs, so everyone was showing off their apartments. They had, over the summer, there was like a baking or cooking competition. So they've been really creative, and it's been really awesome to see our community grow even in a virtual environment. There are many ways to get engaged, on campus with various issues as well, through committees. So our Student Affairs Committee works with the Office of Academic Affairs and Student Affairs to ensure that all the needs of our students are being met, whether they be academic, working to, add faculty members in specific areas that have, growing student interest, or adding a specialization to the MEM program or anything like that. And the Student Affairs Committee also has a wellness team. So they've definitely become quite important this semester in making sure that students are feeling supported and just generally safe and feeling well. The Equid Committee is for students, if you're interested in, becoming directly involved with diversity and community and inclusion efforts on our campus. That's a really great way to do that. And One YSC is an opportunity for students, faculty, and staff to work together to provide programming to the broader YSC community. And then I already mentioned the Yale Forest Forum, but we do have lots of lectures and events that do happen throughout the year on our campus. Lots of centers and programs will host conferences. The Biome series happens every Wednesday during lunch at 12 Eastern. And the Yale Forest Forum is every Thursday at 12 Eastern as well. So I think I have another slide here. Yes. So you can see these are just some of the recent events that we've had on campus, various topics, as you can see, and they're just a really great way for you to engage in conversations that may not be directly related to your area of expertise, but they may help broaden your knowledge more generally on environmental or forest related issues. But if they are in your specific area of interest, they certainly just help to bring in different perspectives and allow for an additional conversation and learning to happen outside of the classroom. And actually, the Hickson Center conference was today, so hopefully there'll be some cool follow-ups on that soon. And the Global Environmental Justice Conference hasn't yet happened. So if you are interested in attending any of these, there are still biomes events happening. There are still the Frontiers in Agroforestry events, and the Global Environmental Justice Conference. These are all open to the public. So you're welcome to join our community for an hour or a little bit of time to learn more about what it's like to be a student from that perspective specifically. I won't talk too much about New Haven, but it's a really great place, to be honest. It's a very green city, partly because of the work of the Urban Resources Initiative on our campus, URI, located, fairly close to the water. So if you, like to be near an ocean or anything like that, you can certainly, get your feet wet in that area as well. There's lots, of course, cultural ways to engage. In New Haven, we have, lots of museums and theaters and the like, in a normal year. But there's also lots of boutiques and shops and sustainable markets that are all within walking distance and available to students. And of course, there's lots of parks as well. So it's just a great city if you like being, outside, but still having the resources, of a larger city right in your backyard. Okay, so I have just a couple slides left. I won't focus too much on our incoming student profile, just because, it varies from year to year, but some things to note on this slide. Our average student does tend to be around 26, with about 4 years of professional experience. And the reason I'm bringing this up is definitely not to scare you or anything like that. If you are on the younger side, we certainly welcome you to apply. You are still likely eligible, for our program. But I just like to highlight that professional experience is something we look for. So it's great that you are all, I'm talking to you at your internship. So it's obvious that you do have some professional experience. And our average student does have about a 3.6 GPA. So we are looking for students that have a commitment to the environment and have been able to show that through professional work or volunteer work, and have the academic strength as well to back that up. Okay, so also understanding that you may not be applying to the Yale School of the Environment for next year, but this is just something to keep in mind. These are our application requirements. They generally remain the same from year to year, and there's nothing, I don't think, too out of left field on our list here. We do require a statement, either personal or research. So if you are applying to one of the research degrees, you would be speaking about your past research experience and what research you hope to conduct as a student in the Master of Environmental Science or the Master of Forest Science program. We do have a short essay and short takes. The short takes I will explain because that just sounds odd. It's not super common on applications, but these are 50-word max responses, and they allow you the space to be creative. So for example, 1 year it asked you, and there's a list of questions. You don't have to choose. You can pick and choose a few of them, whichever ones speak to you most. But 1 year there was a prompt to write a haiku about the Yale School of the Environment. Typically, one of the questions asks, if you were teaching a class at YSE, what would it be? What would the title be? Things like that. We do ask for a resume, 3 letters of recommendation, and transcripts. So again, nothing out of left field. And then we do not require GRE scores. That's the last point I'll make on this slide. It is optional now. And it's totally at your discretion whether or not you'd like to submit those scores as a part of your application or not. Of course, we also have financial aid. I like to include this in here just to start getting it in your mind that our application deadline for financial aid is February 15th at 5 p.m. every year. And that happens before you would receive an admission decision from us. So it's important that you, if you are interested in YSE, that you take note of this deadline as well. And the reason that we ask for your financial aid application prior to receiving a decision from us is so that we can send you your financial award letter with your, hopefully, letter of acceptance. And again, just some important dates to keep in mind. Our application opens in early September every year, but you can see the application prompts year-round on our website. And then our application deadline is December 15th, and our financial aid deadline, like I just mentioned, is February 15th at 5 p.m. Okay, so I've talked quite a bit. Hopefully that gives you a good overview of everything we have to offer. The last thing that I'll mention on this slide is I definitely encourage you, if you are interested in anything that I've spoken about today, and if you're particularly interested in our Master of Forestry or Master of Forest Science program, on Tuesday at lunchtime at 12 p.m., we're hosting a chat with our current forestry fellows. So they're current students and alumni of the program who are still working with the forestry related centers and programs in the forest school at the Yale School of the Environment. So it's a really great way to get to know what it's like to be a student at YSE, specifically in the forestry focused program. So definitely have to shout that out. We're looking forward to that conversation and invite you all to join us. But like I said, I've talked quite a bit. I'll go ahead and move over to my questions slide and encourage you to ask questions either through the chat or, you are welcome to speak them if that's preferred as well. But I'll stop sharing and I will, as I wait for a question or two, unless there are already some in the chat, I will type my email in as well. So if you would like to follow up, I'm happy to do that as well. Cool. Okay.
Please remember to unmute yourself if you have questions about the program, about what Lori said. Susan's still on the line, so she can tell you about her experience there. I can tell you about my experience there as well. But Lori, thank you so much for the presentation. One of the things that I think it's people don't understand about the program is like Yale's program is really about preparing you to go out in the world and be a change maker. It is not like some of the other programs that you will see where it's like, hey, you're going to learn how to cut trees or mark timber, which you do learn there, but it's really, how can you be a leader in that space? So whatever space that you walk into, it is preparing you to be in a leadership role in that space. So even though you would be leaving the school as a new professional in that arena, it is always preparing you through their international work, through their various committees and on-campus initiatives to be a leader in that space. So I think that's one of the things that I think is very important for us to highlight, because I think it prepared me and probably some of my contemporaries very well for being out in the professional world and giving you that confidence to be able to go overseas and interact with folks that in many cases are many ranks above where you would traditionally be operating. So with that, I'm going to turn back over to you, Lori.
Yes, thank you. That was certainly a great summation, and I think of everything that I said in a more real way. So thank you for that. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have. And oh, okay, I see a question in the chat. Sorry, I just totally trailed off there as I was reading it. Cool. Okay, so this question was shared for everyone, but in case you're working on one screen or if you're on your phone and can't see the chat or anything like that, the student is asking what the relationship between Yale and the Forest Service currently looks like. We were founded by Gifford Pinchot and his family, who, of course, had a great relationship and place in in the Forest Service as well. So, currently there's no, as far as I'm aware, formal like agreement or relationship between YSE and the Forest Service. But, many of our students do go off, especially from the forestry program, to work in government organizations. So certainly, you'll find alumni throughout the Forest Service and various other U.S. government organizations that we can certainly connect you with, alumni. And, when you're looking for internship or, professional experience as a current YSE student, there are great ways that we can, connect you with folks in the Forest Service. And Gary, if I am off on that, please please let me know, because this could be a learning opportunity for me as well. But as far as I'm aware, there's no formal relationship with the Forest Service.
It's a very, you are correct. It's very interesting, and Susan can also weigh in. It's a very interesting relationship because in many ways, because of the historical connection with Gifford Pinchot, the Forestry School, or now the School of the Environment, has a special place in the hearts of the Forest Service. But it's also kind of a love-hate relationship where you are secretly held up, but then you're also reviled in the same kind of instance. So you'll find that there are many folks from the Yale School of Environment in the Forest Service. And it's always special when you run into one, but we don't really advertise it too much, if that makes sense. I mean, Susan, would you agree?
Yes, but I'm not sure why exactly, but that is true. And there are definitely more now than there were when I started with the Forest Service 31 years ago. I would often run into colleagues from Yale in meetings around international or tropical forestry. I wouldn't, there really were very few outside of that I met anyway. And yeah, a lot of the staff that I've met in the forestry world in general have received forestry degrees, maybe as an undergrad at a land-grant university, maybe also a grad program. And something I wanted to ask Lori was, I remember when I was at the School of the Environment, there was one thing that was really interesting and fun is that there were a range of skills and backgrounds among the people pursuing a degree in forestry. There were some people that had an undergraduate degree in forestry. Yeah. And there were others like me that had studied history, or in my case, psychobiology, that had no forestry experience at all. And the school was able to meet people where they were and provide the kinds of training that they needed. And in my case, I didn't have the level of technical skill that the forestry undergrad folks had, but I was able to develop those that I needed. And I tended to, do more management related work. So.
Yeah, actually, Susan, that's a great segue also into one of the questions that just came through in the chat. That is still the case with our program. We have students, coming from various different backgrounds. A lot of them, may not have had any forestry experience, until they joined our community. And that goes for the Master of Environmental Management program too. There are certainly career shifters in that group as well. So there is a very large interdisciplinary focus throughout all of our programs, especially the forestry degree as well, because like Gary said, and like you've mentioned also, Susan, students are coming from different backgrounds and hoping to pursue various different things. The most common overlaps now in interdisciplinary in an interdisciplinary nature tend to be with business and policy issues. So a lot of students that are going on to, pursue more interdisciplinary careers are doing so by combining the Master of Forestry or the Master of the Master of Environmental Management with components that can be found in the business and the environment specialization within the MEM program, or the environmental policy specialization as well, or they're becoming involved with the centers and programs that relate to sustainability in more of a broad sense than what you may be learning as a forestry student. So because of that, our programs are very flexible in the sense that you have the opportunity to, if you're a forestry student, take classes, with MEM students as well within different specializations. So the flexibility in the programs is definitely, I think, really important. And it's a main reason why students really connect with the Yale School of the Environment and the Forest School within the school. And why they, in the end will choose to come to to the Yale School of the Environment, because it offers you that interdisciplinary opportunity. As for specific, interdisciplinary directions, I encourage you to definitely check out that career data we have on our website, because that gives you really, I think personally, and if I were a student, I would find that very eye-opening, because you can see the diversity of career paths that our students choose when we only have, 4 degrees. So I definitely, would recommend that. But knowing that many of our students do go off to become entrepreneurs or, work in an interdisciplinary space as well. So sorry, I know I kind of rambled there, but it's definitely an important part of, being a student at YSE is being able to be interdisciplinary in your thinking, which just naturally allows students to pursue a variety of different career paths after graduation. Okay, so the next question is asking for the faculty advisors. Do you need to contact them and have someone agree to work with you before applying, or could you have spoken to potential advisors and then be assigned one? Yeah, so for the Master of Environmental Science or the Master of Forest Science, our faculty will not say, in an email conversation or even in a Zoom conversation or in-person conversation, if they'll accept you as an advisee or not. That will happen during the application review. So, in most cases, you'll be able to get a good feel for if the faculty member would accept you as an advisee. And then during the application process, you would actually list the 3 advisors that, the 3 people that you would like to have as your advisors, explain why, and they will actually review your application first. And they'll just say, they're just not reviewing it for admission, but they're reviewing it to say, yes or no, I'm willing to advise this student. And then as long as one of them says yes, your application moves forward to be reviewed by the application review committee. And then whichever faculty member, was highest on your list that said yes is the one that will be assigned to you. So for example, if you listed 3 faculty members and the person that you listed first said they would accept you as an advisee, they would be your advisor. So I hope that makes sense. I know it's a little funky to explain. There's a few components to it, but we encourage students to reach out to faculty members ahead of time so that you can start to build a relationship with them and just understand better what their work is and how your work may be best guided, by one of our faculty members. But that's a great question. For the Master of Forestry and the Master of Environmental Management, you would go through the advisor matching process after you've been admitted. So typically in July, once you enroll, you'll fill out, similarly, 3 faculty members you would like to have as an advisor. The Office of Academic Affairs will match you with one of those people, and that will be your advisor. But another brief thing to mention is many of our students find mentorship in faculty members that are not their advisors as well. So we have about a 5-to-1 student to faculty ratio. And within the Forest School specifically, that number is closer to 2-to-1. So, you're really going to know your professors and they're really going to know you, and you're going to have the opportunity to, engage with them and really learn from them beyond just, your classes. They're there to be your mentors as well. Okay. One more question here in the chat. Building off of the statement on undergraduate majors, would you say that those of us who know they want to work in government but are flexible on policy focus should wait to apply until we land at an agency that is willing to give time off or similar to pursue a graduate degree? It's a very interesting question. Definitely one that's a little bit I would say personal. So definitely depends on, what your goals are. Generally, if you are excited to start working after you graduate from undergrad, and in your case, if you are a little bit unsure what path you definitely want to take, because, so many things are uncertain just in general throughout life. We encourage students to, take the time to work before you apply. And there are certainly organizations and companies out there that will either pay for students or contribute to a master's degree, or, you know, at the very least contribute in the sense that they'll let you continue working part-time while you pursue a degree part-time or even full-time. So it could be worth doing that. I would definitely say to, you know, weigh your options and think, you know, personally, what would be best for you in that moment. But, you know, graduate school can also be a good time to kind of figure that out. So it depends, I guess, on what type of experience you would like to have first. I'm sorry, I can't answer that question more specifically because it is a fairly personal one. So I would also recommend reaching out to any current mentors that you have to talk about that, because they may know you a little bit more, of course, than I do, and they can kind of help perhaps ask questions that are more related to the experiences that you have had and help guide you, you know, towards, you know, is the master's program is this the right time for me to be going for a master's program, or do I want to continue working? They can certainly help you sort through that as well. But yeah, it is a personal one, but if you can make it work out that way, that would always be good. Well, I'm happy to answer one more question if there are any. But if not, I will thank you all for joining me today. And Gary, thank you for inviting me and allowing me to share the Yale School of the Environment with these incredible interns of yours.
Hey, Lori, thank you so much. And you know, maybe toward the end of the year, I'll have you come back, because
Sure.
I recorded the session today and I'll send you the link. But we have about a little bit close to 100 interns that are with us, and they may want to have just kind of questions with you. So maybe we'll do a smaller question and answer session later.
Absolutely.
Probably in the next semester when it gets closer to people thinking about their graduate opportunities. But thank you so much. And
Sounds great.
And
thank you all so
everyone
much
for being so flexible today.
Stay safe.
Hey, you guys take care.
Thanks, Gary. Good to see you.
It's good to see you too. Take care, Suzanne.